Good evening, everybody, and many thanks to Alberto to give me the opportunity to come to this fantastic country, this big country, enormous country as I saw it over the plane, to discover you all, to discover this incredible city. So I'm very grateful and honored to be here tonight and today, and we'll get straight on. I'm really going to take you on a quick tour of the journey of my so far. And it really started with a coup de foudre, a lightning strike, when I was a young man, and I turned up in Paris and saw this building, which you all recognize very well. And it was a turning point for me because it was a moment at which I realized that architecture, that the city was not a permanent thing, that it was actually in constant change. I'm looking at it from a perspective of a European city where things are very stiff and established in those days. This is now about 40 years ago. So looking at this building where single-handedly a change was taking place to the idea of public space, to the idea of a public institution, elitist institution, to the idea about verticality of public spaces, about how you put a building together, every aspect of this building was so radical that it gave me a complete interest in architecture and the idea that we, as architects and professionals with our colleagues, can actually make a difference to the societies that, and bring them forward to explore different ways. The fascinating thing of working with Richard, which I did for 20 years, and worked and wrote with him and did a lot of what we called extracurricular, non-money-making work of thinking about things broadly, was this particular pair of slides that he showed me, which was, of course, you'll all recognize Michelangelo. And for me, this was the most unexpected side of Richard's thinking and approach to architecture. The idea that in those days, the medieval city on the left, and then the Renaissance contemporary architects coming, thinking about the space and weaving it, not just implying a new structure, but actually working with the existing and transforming it into a new aesthetic with new meaning, a new social purpose. This contrasted at the same time. I studied and worked through university, so in and out, in and out, in and out, which gave me an interesting perspective of working for an international architect and then actually starting right at the bottom as an apprentice architect and student. I had a very inspiring tutor, and for those teachers that are here, and for the students, it's an incredible moment, and you must savor every young moment that you have when you're helped to discover your own passions, because those passions stay throughout your life. And this one was, my tutor had come back from Mexico and had found a little grey plaque on the side of a building, and it was the Ministry for the Quality of Life. And so our first project was the Department of the Land. And this, the most extraordinary site. We were literally sent there by bus. We arrived on this place, it's down the Thames estuary in England, away from London towards the sea, a kind of abandoned space. And we had to do something with it. So the program was nothing. We were just put there. And I was joined by Ben van Berkel of UN Studios at the time. We were all students together. So a bunch, 10 of us, with no idea what we were meant to be doing. I had absolutely no idea. So I decided to build a tent. So I stole a canvas from a building site, made the structure, got a friend to drive me out to the middle of nowhere, and set up this little tent. And boy, was I happy, because it was raining, and I had to stay there all night on my own. So I was very happy with the concept of immediate shelter. And this is all very basic stuff, but the first and most important aspect of our jobs is to provide the protection from the wind, protection from the rain, a shelter. Beneath it, it was really the first step of becoming an architect or an artist, or thinking about, was to try and actually understand overnight what I was feeling in the space, and actually trying to take that first step, which I think you'll all remember, where we actually have to do something of our own. We have to express ourselves through our art. In this case, I can't paint, I still can't paint, but there it was, overnight, painting something, and then arriving back taking it all down in the morning and coming back to the Architectural Association and exhibiting the event that was happening, that had happened in that night, as a two-dimensional exposition of what had happened in 3 dimensions over a period of time. But I think the thing that really carried me was the beauty of the simple object in the landscape, and of the sound of the water, and of being in nature. And I think that was carried straight through, but took a long time to develop into different ways. This is the first project I did when I left Rogers, and it is the most beautiful site down in the west of Southern Ireland. And it was for the producer